We check out of the Isle of Skye hotel and head north to the Highlands council area. It's the largest by area of the council areas in Scotland. While it's the 7th largest by population, it's sparsely populated with only 9 people per square kilometer. The clouds look a little ominous as we head up Loch Coruisk. We make a brief stop for a picture of Castle Stalker, a small fort on an island in Loch Lake. Built in 1320, it's one of the best preserved medieval tower houses to survive in western Scotland. Our first real stop is at Glencoe. These rugged hills are the three sisters of Glencoe. The road continues deeper into the valley. Here a glen is a valley, especially one that is long and bounded by gently sloping sides. David tells us that this is probably the most photographed mountain in Scotland, Buchan. There are 4 summits on the ridge. This is the highest, at 3,352 feet. David takes us to this spot on the River Cuillin for its picturesque waterfall. We spend some time trying to capture it all, the waterfall and the mountain. Eventually, we just walk around and take pictures of whatever catches our eye. David takes our picture to prove that we were here, and then it's time to head out of Glencoe. Our next stop is Glennevis. We start our walk at the lower falls on the River Nevis. Then we head up the easy track into the Glennevis. The trail runs along the River Nevis. Then the trail turns up the valley. These rugged hills say Scotland to me. Then we're at the upper falls of the River Nevis. We go back along the road, but the scenery is gorgeous even there. Having worked up an appetite, we stop at the Ben Nevis Inn for lunch. Our next stop is Glenfinnan for a history lesson. This is the Glenfinnan Monument, erected in 1814 and dedicated to the soldiers of Loudon's Highlanders who fought in the Jacobite Rising of 1745. The Jacobite Risings were attempts to restore James II to the throne of England. He was the last Catholic king and was deposed in 1688. The Jacobites supported the restoration of the House of Stuart to the throne. On August 19, 1745, Bonnie Prince Charlie raised his father's standard here at Glenfinnan and gathered a force of Highlanders to march on Edinburgh. We'll learn more about the Jacobites later. Now we're headed to MacLeod to get the ferry to the Isle of Skye. MacLeod is the main commercial fishing port on the west coast of Scotland. We cross the Sound of Sleat, looking back at MacLeod and the Highlands. Ahead is the Isle of Skye, and to the left is the Isle of Rum. We land at Armandale on the Isle of Skye. Tonight we'll be staying in Portree. We enjoy the fading golden hour on the moors. David stops at Sligachan, one of his favorite landscapes. There's a good reason why they call this time just before sunset the golden hour. We arrive at our home for 2 nights, the Cuillin Hills Hotel in Portree. After breakfast, we're off to explore the Isle of Skye. We head south to Loch Slapin for landscapes. Here's a view that just says Scotland. The water, the mountains, and of course the sheep. The black-faced sheep seem unfazed by the gathering clouds, content in their grazing. We haven't seen much bird life yet, but there are some here. We're heading to Elgall for a boat ride to Loch Coruisk. And here's our ride, the Bella Jane. And here's where we're headed, in the center of the picture, on the distant shore. We leave the little settlement of Elgall behind. This impressive mountain is Skirnastree. David assures us that back in that mist is Loch Coruisk. Our captain takes us past the harbor seals. A few look up, but most just ignore us. The gulls don't look very interested either. Around the rocky headland, and there's the boat landing, and another group waiting to go back to Elgall. The Skye River is the outlet of Loch Coruisk into the ocean. But the river is only about 100 yards long. Our first look at Loch Coruisk. It's a freshwater lake, nearly 2 miles long but only 400 yards wide. The mountains on the opposite shore are the Black Cuillin. The peaks of the Black Cuillin are composed of gabbro and granite. But it's not all black rocks. There are flashes of color. The dark rocks, moody clouds, and reflections make interesting studies in black and white. The Bella Jane is coming back to pick us up. The deckhand is waiting with hot chocolate, tea, and coffee. The weather is getting worse, and it starts to rain as we cross the loch to Elgall. Back at Loch Slapin, we look at the golden seaweed and try to wait out the weather. David says, "I know you like old churchyards. I know where there's a good one, Kilchrist." We have a short stop to see if there's a picture in the reed-filled ponds, and sure enough there is. This is Kilchrist, or Christ's Church, the ruins of a parish church. It was built in the 16th century, replacing an earlier medieval church. It was in use up to 1840. The churchyard was still used as a cemetery even after the church was abandoned, a World War I grave. The balustraded enclosure was added to the east gable in the early 18th century for the MacKinnon clan. Most of the graves are connected to the MacKinnons and are from the 18th and 19th century. The day has slipped away, and we head north back to Portree, but first a stop at Sligachan to see if we have any luck with the light like yesterday. Rain is lightly falling, and the sky is overcast. These men looking toward the Cuillin Mountains are John Mackenzie and Norman Colley, pioneering mountaineers on Skye. Norman Colley was a university professor, and John Mackenzie was a tenant farmer. They shared a love of the mountains of Skye. This memorial was erected in 2020. We get back to Portree in time to get some pictures of the harbor. Condé Nast Traveler named Portree among the 20 most beautiful villages in the UK and Ireland. At the Cullen Hills Hotel, we have dinner and admire the extensive whiskey library. After breakfast, we check out of the Cullen Hills Hotel and head north to the Quiraing. It's a misty morning with low clouds. We stop for a picture of the store. The large pinnacle at the right is the Old Man of Store. The Quiraing is a landslip when a mountainside slid down, leaving high cliffs, hidden plateaus, and pinnacles of rock. The name Quiraing comes from the Old Norse word meaning round fold. Unfortunately, the grand views of spectacular rock formations are lost in the mists and the clouds. We turn south for the Skye Bridge, which connects the Isle of Skye with the Highlands. We'll pick up the adventures there in the next chapter.